The screaming came through my laptop speakers at 1 in the morning, and I knew, I was listening to someone die. There was nothing I could do but sit there in the blue glow of my monitor, 3 states away, my hand frozen over a phone I didn't know how to use to save her. Her name was Emily. I'd known her for about 4 hours. And I will hear that sound for the rest of my life. Let me go back. Let me start from the beginning, because if I just give you the end, you'll think it was random. You'll think it was bad luck, the kind of thing that happens to other people in other towns. But it wasn't random. Somebody chose her. Somebody had been watching her long before that night. And I was the only other person on earth who got to watch it happen. I was 17. A junior. And I want you to understand what kind of 17 I was, because it matters. I was shy. Not cute shy, not the kind of shy that girls find endearing in movies. I was the kind of shy that makes a kid disappear into the walls of a classroom, the kind that makes teachers forget your name by October. And it wasn't my fault, really. My dad's work moved us around like we were pieces on a board somebody kept knocking over. Every year and a half, we'd pack the house into brown boxes and drive somewhere new, and I'd start over in a building full of strangers who'd already known each other since kindergarten. By the time I landed at that last school, I'd stopped trying. What was the point? I'd be gone before anyone bothered to learn whether I was worth knowing. So I kept my head down. I ate lunch in the library where it was quiet, where the only sound was the soft hum of the heating vents and the occasional squeak of a cart's wheel against the linoleum. I got good at being invisible. Some part of me even liked it. But here's the thing nobody tells you about being invisible. You still want to be seen. God, you want it so badly it aches, somewhere under your ribs, this low constant hunger. I wanted to talk to people. I wanted someone to laugh at something I said. I just had no idea how to get any of that without my heart slamming so hard I thought I'd pass out. That's when I found the website. You typed in your interests, you clicked a button, and it threw you into a text box with a total stranger from anywhere in the world. No names. No faces. No history. Just 2 cursors blinking at each other in the dark. For someone like me, it was a miracle. I only ever used text at first. There was no way, I was putting my face on camera for some stranger to judge. But the text I could do. Hidden behind a keyboard, in the safety of my own bedroom with the door locked and the lamp off so my parents thought I was asleep, I could finally be a person. I talked to people about everything. Politics. Video games. Books. Bad movies. The meaning of life at 2 in the morning when neither of us could sleep. And slowly, I mean over months, I felt myself coming out of my shell. Not in real life. In real life I was still a ghost. But there, in those little text boxes, I was funny. I was thoughtful. People stayed and talked to me for hours. The other thing it taught me, and this sounds strange, was how to get hurt. See, on that site, people ghost you. You'd be in the middle of the best conversation of your week, really connecting with someone, and then, gone. No warning. The box just goes empty. They got bored, or they didn't like you, or they found someone more interesting in another window, and you never find out which. The first few times that happened to me, after a real conversation, it stung worse than anything I'd felt at school. But after a while, it toughened something in me. I learned that rejection wasn't the end of the world. I learned to let people go. I should have remembered that lesson. I shouldn't have asked her to stay. I talked to girls, too. Or people who said they were girls, you can never know, and I made it a rule never to fully believe it. A couple of them wanted to talk dirty, and I always bailed, too nervous, too green. After a while the novelty wore off entirely. "I'm a girl" stopped meaning anything to me. It was just words in a box. Until the night I met Emily. Have you ever felt like something was watching you? Like the hair on the back of your neck stands up for no reason you can name? Hold on to that feeling. You're going to need it. It started like any other conversation. We matched on some shared interest, I think it was books, or maybe old films, and we just clicked. You know how rare that is? One conversation in 100, maybe 1,000, where the rhythm is just there, where every reply makes the other person reply faster, where 90 minutes vanish like they were 9. We talked about everything and nothing. She was sharp. She was funny in this dry, sneaky way that made me laugh out loud alone in my dark room, and I had to clap a hand over my mouth so I wouldn't wake the house. I was so sure she was a guy. Some of the things she liked, the games, the obscure stuff, I'd built a whole picture in my head of some witty dude my own age. So when she mentioned, just casually, that she was a girl, I actually sat back from the screen. I didn't believe it. My rule, remember. But God, I wanted to. So I kept talking, trying to play it cool, and somewhere in there, for the first time in my entire life, I started flirting. Badly, I'm sure. Clumsily. But it felt natural, which had never once happened to me before. The conversation was going so well that when we both named the same favorite book, the same exact obscure favorite book, something in me just snapped loose and got brave. I asked if she wanted to switch to webcam. My heart was hammering when I typed it. If she was a guy, or a catfish, fine, I'd cut my losses and disconnect and never think about it again. But if she was who she said she was. We did this goofy little countdown in the text box, both of us trying to flick our cameras on at the same second, and we totally botched it, and it was so dumb and so charming that whatever nerves I had left just melted away. And then her camera came on. Wow. She was beautiful. I mean genuinely, breathtakingly beautiful, one of the prettiest girls I have ever seen to this day, and I'm not saying that because of how it ended. I'm saying it because it was true. She had this warm lamplight behind her, this cozy bedroom, posters on the wall, soft shadows in the corners, and she gave this little embarrassed wave and bit her lip, and I forgot how to breathe. We both blushed. We both did that awkward laugh. And then we just kept talking. Like the cameras changed nothing. Like we'd been doing this for years. Her name was Emily, and I have never, before or since, fallen for someone so fast and so hard. We talked for 2 more hours. 2. The clock on my wall ticked past 3 in the morning and I didn't care. The whole time I had this low-grade terror humming under everything, terror that the connection would drop, that the screen would freeze, that she'd remember she had a life and a bedtime and 1,000 better things to do than talk to a shy boy 3 states away. I kept wanting to ask for her number, some way to keep this alive beyond tonight, and I kept chickening out. The words would climb up into my throat and die there. She lived in New Hampshire, she said. A few states away from me. She was a senior. She lived with her parents in a 2-story house, and her room, she mentioned this in passing, and I'll never know why my brain filed it away, her room was on the 2nd floor. Remember that. Her room was on the 2nd floor. I finally worked up the nerve to steer us toward relationships. Real smooth, I thought. I asked if she was single. She said she was. But maybe not for much longer, she added, and my stomach dropped. I kind of met this really cute guy. Oh. There it was. Of course. I forced a smile she couldn't quite see in my dim room and told her that whoever he was a lucky guy. She started laughing. This bright, helpless laugh. I'm talking about you, idiot. I swear my whole body went to pins and needles. If I'd blushed any harder I think I'd have actually passed out. It took me a solid few seconds to come back into myself, and when I did, I knew, now. Now was the moment. Ask for her number. Don't overthink it. Just be smooth, be genuine, say something witty, and that's when I saw it. Behind her. In the window. Her room was lit warm and golden, and the window behind her was a black rectangle, because outside it was the dead middle of the night. And in that black rectangle, just for a second, I thought I saw something. A shape. A paleness against the dark. There and gone so fast I couldn't be sure my tired eyes hadn't invented it. I stared. I told myself it was nothing. A reflection. A smudge on my screen. The adrenaline of her saying I'm talking about you still sparking through my veins. But she saw my face change. Hey, she said, tilting her head. Everything okay? Yeah, I said. Sorry. I thought I saw something. Behind you. She turned and looked at her own window. Looked for a couple of seconds. Then she turned back, smiling, easy. There's nothing there. It's probably just a smudge on your screen or something. I looked again. Just black glass. Nothing. I let out a breath and laughed it off, and we kept going. The conversation rolled on, warm and easy, and I let myself relax back into it. I almost forgot. And then it happened again. This time the movement was bigger. Lower. Something shifting in the dark behind the glass, slow, deliberate. My whole body went cold, this prickling ice spreading from my chest out to my fingertips, and before I could stop myself I blurted, "Emily, I really think there's something outside your window." She turned again, looked harder this time, and then she laughed, relieved. "Oh. You mean that? That's just our tree. There's a big tree in the front yard and it's super windy tonight, the branches go right past my window. It does that all the time, scares the crap out of me." And I felt so stupid. So relieved and so stupid. A tree. Of course it was a tree. Second floor, who's going to be at a second floor window at 3 in the morning? We laughed about it together, this nervous shared laugh, and it actually broke the tension in a good way, brought us closer somehow. But it had derailed my big moment again. So I gathered myself one more time. Worked the courage back up, breath by breath, watching her smile in the warm light of her room. If this story is keeping you up, if your skin's gone tight and you've started listening to the sounds in your own house, do me a favor and subscribe. We post something new to keep you awake every single night. I got there. I had the words ready. So, can I get your number? Right on the tip of my tongue. And then I saw movement over her shoulder one more time. Only this time there was no mistaking it. This time it wasn't a flicker, wasn't a shape, wasn't a branch. The window was opening. I could see the white frame of it sliding upward, slow and steady, behind her head. Inch by inch. The pale bars of the window shifting in the dark while she sat there in her warm little room, smiling at me, with no idea. No tree does that. No wind does that. Something on the other side of that glass was pushing it open from the outside, 2 stories up, in the black of the night. I didn't play it cool. I didn't ease into it. Every instinct I had detonated at once, and I screamed at my laptop, "Emily!" The window. She spun in her chair. And through that grainy, low-resolution webcam, I watched a person come through the window. Dark clothes. That's all I could make out. The camera was so bad, just a smear of motion and shadow, a dark shape unfolding itself into her room over the windowsill. I couldn't see a face. I couldn't see hands. Just darkness pouring into all that warm golden light, where it absolutely did not belong. Emily screamed. She was a blur. She shot up out of the chair and the camera caught a flash of her face, her eyes huge, her mouth open, and then she was gone. She bolted out of frame toward what I assume was her bedroom door. And the dark shape went after her. Fast. Horribly fast. It crossed the room in a heartbeat and vanished out of frame after her. And then there was just her empty chair. Her empty room. The lamp still glowing warm and gold. The window standing open with the night pouring through it. And the sounds. I have to tell you about the sounds, even though I don't want to. Because the camera couldn't follow her, but the microphone could still hear. She was screaming somewhere in that house. High, ragged, terrified screaming, the kind of sound a human body only makes when it understands it might be about to die. It echoed, like it was coming from a hallway, a stairwell, somewhere with hard walls. And under her screaming, threaded through it, there was a man's voice. Low. Rough. A bark, every so often. Words I couldn't make out. I just kept staring at that empty glowing room, frozen, my hands locked at my sides, listening to a girl I'd known for 4 hours run for her life somewhere I couldn't see and couldn't reach. She was home alone. She'd told me that, earlier, in passing, the way she told me her room was on the 2nd floor. Home alone. So there was no one else in that house. Just her screams, and his voice, and the awful percussion of things falling, banging, a body hitting a wall. And then. A sound I can't describe right. A high, thin, rising wail. Not like the screaming before. Different. Final, somehow, in a way I felt in my teeth before my brain understood it. And then nothing. Silence. Total, smothering silence. The kind of silence that has a weight to it, that presses on your eardrums. Her empty room glowed on my screen, peaceful, the lamp warm, the posters on the wall, the window open to the dark, and not one single sound came through my speakers anymore. I think I sat there for 10 full seconds just staring, my mind completely white, refusing to process what I'd heard. And then my body moved before my brain did. I grabbed my phone off the desk, my hands shaking so hard I dropped it once, and I dialed 911. And it was only when the dispatcher answered, calm and clear, 911, what's your emergency, that the full horror of my situation hit me. I had nothing. I didn't know her last name. I'd never asked. I didn't know her street, her town, her zip code, the color of her house. I knew she was a girl named Emily, that she was a senior in high school, and that she lived somewhere, in the entire state of New Hampshire. That was it. That was everything I had to send help to a girl who was bleeding out on a floor I would never see. I think, I'm watching a home invasion, I said, and even as I said it I knew how it sounded, how useless it was. A girl, someone came through her window, I was talking to her online, I think she's hurt, I think she's, sir, where is the girl located? I don't know, she's in New Hampshire, that's all sir, I need an address. I didn't have one. The dispatcher kept asking, patient and professional, and I kept failing to answer, and the helplessness of it built and built in my chest until I thought I'd come apart. There was nothing they could do. There was nothing I could do. Eventually, sick with frustration and grief and a horror I had no words for, I hung up. And then I just sat there. In the dark. Staring at her empty, glowing room on my screen. Praying. I'm not even a praying person, but I prayed that night, I begged whatever's out there to let her be okay, to let her have gotten away, to let that silence mean she was hiding somewhere safe instead of the other thing. I don't know how long I sat there. Time had gone strange and thick. The lamp glowed. The window stood open. Nothing moved. And then, far away, Tinny threw her laptop's little microphone, I heard them. Sirens. They got louder. I saw the faint pulse of red and blue light begin to flicker across the wall of her bedroom, through that open window, painting her posters in colors that didn't belong there. I heard a crash from somewhere in the house, the sound of a door being forced. Then voices, real voices, deep and commanding, garbled by distance and bad audio but unmistakable. Police. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. And then the gunshots. A lot of them. 15, 20, I genuinely couldn't count, they came in a ragged storm, and each one made me flinch in my chair 3 states away. Then shouting. Then more silence, but a different kind now, a busy silence, full of distant footsteps and radio crackle and movement. I stayed on the camera. I don't know why. I think part of me couldn't accept that I just watched it happen and could simply close the laptop and walk away. So I stayed, and eventually a figure moved into frame, a police officer, looking around the room, and his eyes found the laptop, found the little green light of the webcam, found me. I told him everything. That I'd been talking to her. That I'd seen the man come in through the window. That I'd seen it all. A day or two later, I got a call from a New Hampshire detective. His voice was tired in a way that voices get tired. He asked me what I'd seen, and I told him, one person, just one, dark clothes, through the window, that's all the camera showed me. And once he understood I'd only seen the one intruder and nothing that could identify him, I felt his interest in me deflate. I wasn't a useful witness. I was just a kid who'd watched. So I asked him. I had to. I'd been too afraid to look it up, too afraid of what I'd find. Is Emily okay? There was a long pause on the line. I heard him breathe in. I heard him put on a voice, a careful, professional, gentle voice, before he even said a word, and I knew. I knew before he spoke. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, son. Emily passed away that night, shortly after you two were talking. What would you have done? I still wonder, all these years later. If I'd asked for her number 10 minutes earlier. If I'd recognized the shape in the window the very first time instead of letting her laugh it off. If I'd screamed sooner. I run it back and back and back, and it always ends the same way, and I still wonder. He told me, as kindly as he could, that anything I could give them would go toward catching the man who did it. That's not exactly how he said it, but you get the idea. And then he told me a little more than maybe he should have, or maybe I read the rest in the news later. I genuinely can't separate the two anymore in my memory. It hadn't been a robbery. I'd assumed, in my desperate need for it to make some kind of sense, that it was a burglar, someone who wanted to subdue her quickly and empty the house and disappear. That would have been almost bearable. A bad man who wanted things. But he didn't want things. He did things to her. And then he killed her. And the worst part, the part that I have never once been able to push out of my mind in all the years since, is that he didn't run afterward. He didn't grab anything and flee into the night. He stayed. He stayed in that house with her and kept going, kept doing what he was doing, until the police arrived. That's how they caught up to him. That's why there were so many gunshots. When they came up the stairs and found him, he must have rushed them, must have had a weapon, because they put 15 or 20 rounds into him in that warm little bedroom with the posters on the wall. He'd been at her window. Maybe for a long time. Watching the light, watching her move around her room. Maybe watching her talk to me, this distant blue glow of a boy on her screen, while he decided exactly when to push the glass up and climb inside. For days afterward I searched the internet. Hating myself for it, unable to stop. I needed to know it was real and I needed it to not be, both at once. And God help me, I found it. A small article, a local New Hampshire paper. A home invasion. A murder. A young woman. A suspect killed by responding officers. That's how I know the details. That's how I know it wasn't a nightmare I built out of grief. This happened about 6 or 7 years ago now. And here's the thing that still keeps me up some nights, they never identified him. The man who came through her window died on her bedroom floor, and to this day, all this time later, nobody knows for certain who he was or how many windows he'd watched before hers. He had no ID, or none that matched anything. Just a dead man in dark clothes who'd climbed 2 stories up to get to a girl who was home alone. I tell myself there's hope. You hear about it, don't you? Cold cases cracked years later, a DNA match that finally puts a name to a monster. Families hold on to that. I hold on to a version of it too, even though for me there's no real closure to be had. Knowing his name wouldn't bring her back. Wouldn't unhear her last scream. Wouldn't give me back the 4 hours when I thought I just met the best thing that had ever happened to me. I still take medication for the anxiety. All these years later. Some nights are fine. Some nights I'm right back in that dark bedroom at 3 in the morning, watching a window slide open behind a girl who's smiling at me. You know what's strange? Those few months on that website were the golden years of my social life. The most connected I have ever felt to other human beings, before or since. Funny how that works. Because now I'm right back to where I started. Quiet. Distant. The ghost in the back of the room. But it's different now, and I want to be clear about why, because it isn't the old shyness. It isn't that I can't get close to people anymore, or that I don't want to. It's that I just don't have it in me to form the attachment. I learned something that night that I was never supposed to learn so young, watching a girl I adored vanish off the edge of a webcam frame into the dark. I learned how fast it happens. How a person can be right there in front of you, warm and laughing and alive and yours, and then, gone. I never even got to ask for her number. If you made it to the end of this one, thank you for staying with me in the dark. Subscribe for more horror, every single night. And if you want more stories that will keep you up, check out What the Wow Stories for the wildest relationship drama you've ever heard. Link below. Sleep well.